Hey guys, in today's video I am going to be working with Tinashe hair, which is kind of funny because Tinashe is a Southern African name. But what I'm going to be doing today is making a curly frontal wig, going over the basics for anybody who just doesn't know how to make a wig, period. And this is the stuff that came with the hair, a mirror, and some information about the hair as well. And I have 3 bundles and a closure, frontal. And the frontal is 20 inches long. It's Brazilian curly hair, and I'll have all the information about everything in the description box so you can check and see for yourselves. But it does have baby hairs. It is a bit dense. I would say medium density because I've had frontals that are thicker than this. And the first bundle that I'll be using is 24 inches in length. I always put the shortest bundle in the back, because if you put the longest one in the back with curly hair, it kind of looks like you have thin ends. But if you do it with straight hair, it looks nice and layered. So I always start with the shortest bundle in the back, and this is what it looks like. It's elongated right now, and if you saw in the opening of the video, it looked shorter because I made the curls pop a little bit and made them a little bit more curly than they appear when they arrive kind of vacuum packed. So I also do have 2 26-inch bundles, and I am using this wig cap. I will link it below, but I don't advise anyone to use this one. I got it from my beauty supply store, and yes, I have affiliate links in my description box, but I always advise you guys to try to find stuff that I show you in the store because it's usually cheaper. But this particular cap, I don't like it because it's just not ideal for making wigs. I'll link the type that I prefer down below. And I put the frontal on, pin it down right in the middle, then I pin the sides down and try to form the frontal as if I would form it around my head, then pin it down that way. The front is not so important, the back is more important actually, but I pin the middle back. I pin that part down. And then I start pinning down on either side, going down off the cap, and that's all I do. Make sure it's nice and tense. You will have some hanging off the edge if you have a small head, and we'll cut that later. But right now I'm going to go ahead and sew the frontal down. The frontal is the most important part because this is basically the foundation of your wig, okay? And you want it to sit nicely, and you want it to sit like a crescent. But the stitch that I'm using right now is the blanket stitch. I will link a video tutorial of my own where I show you guys detailed stitching, and I'll also let you know where to start watching in the video. But if I find a nice video where someone's just generally stitching the blanket stitch, I'll link that as well, so that way you can really understand what I'm doing better, because black on black is hard to see. And you just keep going around, take out the pins as needed, and make sure the frontal is perfectly secure as you stitch. That way your wig will be secure. But I always make sure my frontal stitches are very small, anywhere between 3 and 4 millimeters. I like to keep those very tiny. Sometimes they're smaller than that because this is the foundation and I want to make sure it doesn't shift at all. We have a close-up here so you can kind of see just how small the stitches are when compared to my fingers. They're pretty small. And this part is gonna take you, like, I would say maybe 20 minutes, 10 minutes if you're making large stitches or less. But it takes me about 20 minutes to do this and come all the way to the bottom. And if you're doing this for a client, you definitely want to make small stitches and make it look like it would if you were using a sewing machine to sew. Like, look at your clothes and then sew like that. Like, the space between those stitches, that's how you should space your wigs. So you've got your flap over there, right when it runs off the wig cap, and pinning it down just a little bit off. And then I'm gonna sew through my weft, and this is the 24 inch. I'm gonna sew through and make sure I secure it and join it perfectly right next to the frontal. I don't want any overlap, I just want them to sit side by side. That way there are no gaps and this wig is gonna come on nicely. Now listen carefully. Do not sew all the way through because this is an elastic cap and right there is where the band is. So you just kind of want to sew through the fabric that's right up top. Don't sew all the way through because you will have resistance and you will end up eliminating some of that stretch. But make sure you always pin your hair down before you even do anything. That is very important because you need a path. Trust me. If you try to sew a wig blind without pinning anything down before sewing, you will regret it and you won't have the proper spacing or the proper density that you want. So what I like to do is I like to finger space, but when I get to the end first, I pin again, I pin it down after flipping it over, and then I sew through the weft and through the wig cap so that the weft can be tight on the wig cap right at the end before I flip over to go to the other side. And this is the only time that I actually sew through the weft, only on ends. If it's not an end, I don't sew through. I make maybe 2 or 3 stitches, then I keep going and I pin my hair down first, and I try to keep the distance of a finger between each weft. So this is after one bundle and I'm going in with my first 26 inch, and what I'm gonna do now is join the 2 wefts because the one has finished and I need to continue. I'll pin the second weft down right on the edge just like the one before it, leaving just a small amount of weft out so I can sew through that, and then of course pin going around because it helps keep the weft up. And I'm gonna sew around with the blanket stitch, and then I'm gonna sew through the weft at the very edge of the weft. And you can't see it because for some reason I thought it was a good idea to stand in front of the camera, but I'm sewing through the weft here, and then I'm taking the other pin out and really close to the other weft, I'm gonna sew through the wig cap, then sew through the weft right on the edge, and then go through, pull through all the way, make sure it's nice and tight. And I separate thread sometimes. If it's not tight enough, I will separate the thread and make sure it's tight. Then sew through again. And here you can see me cutting everything I need to cut to get to the weft. And this is the third bundle, the other 26 inch. And I'm joining again, sewing through and joining it so it can be right there tight on the wig cap. And of course pinning, and you can see there's a horseshoe here that's naturally going to create itself because you're going back and forth in a semicircle. Right now what I'm doing is going back and forth in a zigzag, so I'm sewing straight stitches going up to the frontal, and this is the last area right here, this opening, and I'm gonna pin it down and then start sewing. Now, if you're like really new to this and you're not comfortable with the blanket stitch, you can just sew however you feel like. These things come with time. You shouldn't stress or pressure yourself, because when I first made a wig the first time ever, I didn't know how to sew, but it was a really good looking wig for that time. I would never do it again. But you know, you have to start somewhere, so don't feel like you have to be perfect or excellent at certain things. But I did flip the wig over and I cut the part of the wig cap that was directly under the frontal, and I took that out altogether to reveal the frontal. And we are gonna wash our hair because we don't know what was being used to process this hair, period. And I'm also going to be using my Flawless by Gabrielle Union hair mask to condition. I did use my Dr. Bronner's lavender soap to wash it. You can see it now in the side, but I'm also using some mousse to brush it out and make my curls pop. Then I just inch them in all the way into the wig cap, and I let them sit there for like 2 days while the towel absorbs the moisture and helps it dry. And that's pretty much all I do as far as curl definition. So what I'm gonna do now is cut my wig. I would advise anyone, if you want to take care of your hairline for the wigs, definitely go ahead and do that before you define the curls. It should be a common sense thing, but I mean, sometimes we forget, so I would advise that you do that because my hairline is kind of thick. I don't personally care about hairlines because they come in all shapes and sizes, but I am thinking of doing a video where I pluck my hairline for you guys. If you want that, I will do that. I can embarrass myself if you want me to. I'm not very good at it, but sometimes I do have success. So what I'm gonna do now is measure so I can cut the flaps. I told you guys previously, do not do this until the wig is on your head so you can get down to those sideburns and you can start applying your got to be glued. And I'm using the gel followed by the freeze spray, and it's the same process, so we're not gonna spend too much time on this. But I just lay my hair down and I have a wig cap under there and then stick this thing on, and that's it. Blow dry, and that is all that I do. So right here, I'm gonna part my hair so I can wear it. I promise you guys, I should really do a detailed video on just the hairline and the parting and all of that. I should definitely do that. I think I'm gonna do that next. But I did, because I didn't do the part earlier, I sprayed my hair with some Uncle Funky's Defunk and then blow dried it so that I could make it lie down where my part is. Instead of having to sit there with a heat styling tool, I just use a blow dryer for curly hair. Like, why waste time on all of that? But I trimmed the hair, combed it out a little bit, and you've got a lot of volume even though it's really long. It looks shorter, but it's really long. And I'm gonna spray it again. Any curls that are frizzy, just spray with a light leave-in and you're good. So that's all there is for this video. I hope I helped somebody who doesn't know how to make a wig. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. Give me a big thumbs up. Comment down below letting me know what you want to see next. And I will talk to you guys in my next video. But until then, take care.